Using our hotel website SPSS data file for this next example, we're going to look at how you can compare two categorical variables. Categorical variables, as a reminder, are those variables that have certain categories to them and aren't just numbers in an infinite range. So if I said, how old are you? That's an example of what we call a continuous variable. Continuous because that number can go from, you know, uh, 0 to 120 or whatever number you happen to be in between. Categorical would be where we take that range of numbers, those continuous variables, and we move them into smaller manageable categories. So I might have 5 categories. Maybe you're between 0 and 20, between 21 and 40, between 41 and 60, between 61 and 80, and between and 80 and above, right? So 5 categories, and you would choose the one category that you're within. So that's an example of categorical data. So what we're going to do is look at how we can compare two variables that are categorical and do that in SPSS. So the first thing you're going to do is go to Analyze and then choose Descriptive Statistics and go down to the option called Crosstabs. So Crosstabs is simply frequency analysis, but comparing two categorical variables against one another. So in our example, we're going to be interested in what is the relationship between sex and marital status. So we want to know what the proportions are of those who identified as male and female and those who identified as married, single, divorced, or widowed. And what are the cross comparisons between the two? So let's move sex into our rows, and let's move marital status into our columns. This can be interchanged, just depends on what type of information you'd like to display by the end. Are you interested in looking at marital status by sex, or are you interested in looking at sex by marital status? So again, it depends on your research question. Here, we're interested in understanding marital status by sex. That is, let's look at males and females separately and look at all of the data regarding their marital status for each one. What we're going to do is click on this option here for cells and make sure that observed counts are selected. And here we want to total the percentage, or sorry, choose our percentages for the row category. So what this means is that your rows are going to total to 100%, whereas your columns will just be whatever the total is for that frequency. So you'll see on the next slide what I mean by that, or the next window. I'd like you to keep all other data the same. So there's lots of analysis you can do in here, but today we're just learning about the basics of crosstabs. So once that's done, I would like you to also select this box, Display Clustered Bar Charts. We'll get a nice visual of the table that is also outputted, and then hit OK. So here's our output, very similar to when you run a frequency analysis. So here you can see a comparison between sex and marital status. We had an N of 56, that is a population of 56, with 100% of our respondents answering these two questions. In our table, we can see that the totals of the rows do equal 100%. So it's simply saying that if you take single, married, divorced, and widowed, put them together, we're totaling 100%. This is because we are interested in marital status by sex. Remember, if we were to change that, we would want to switch that. We would want sex to total 100% and look at marital status in the rows instead. Okay, so this is how we've selected it out. And you can confirm that in the bar chart. So here in the bar chart, you can see that we have separated males on the left, females on the right, and for each one, we've indicated their marital status. So from a quick glance, you can tell by looking at this chart that single females outweighed single males in terms of responses to this survey. That may or may not be important to you. It may not be even relevant to your survey or your research question. So it's important to only run analyses that are relevant in some way that can inform your study. So this is an example of using crosstabs in SPSS.